Hello, all. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. I was uh, just informed that the governor is going to run a few minutes late, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. And please be flexible with us, as this is a live show, and we will switch over to the governor when he logs on. I'm sure that he is juggling a few other things right now. Thank you for joining us at the last minute, especially during this hectic time. I'm sure that some of you are like me, getting used to working from home, and while at the same time, as one of our community members said last night, trying to understand how to teach new math to our kids. We will have time for questions at the end. Please use the question chat function that you should see at the bottom of your screen as your questions arise. This is a watershed moment on so many levels. When we look back, it will be defined by how we step up, not just our national and state elected officials, not just our public health leadership, but also how we as individuals that make up the tipping point community step up. In many ways, Tipping Point was created to step up in moments like this. I say that because in moments of crisis, we have to rely on each other. We have to rely on those who we have built strong relationships with. We depend on each other for help, for moral support, and for guidance. At its core, that's what Tipping Point is. Lots and lots of strong relationships. Relationships with donors, executive directors, government officials, program officers, and corporations. Relationships that are tied together by a shared belief that if we work hard enough and smart enough, we can defeat poverty in the Bay Area. That's been our focus. And when I say our, I mean everyone on this call for 15 years. We did a study earlier this year with UC Berkeley and found that 1 in 5 people have less than $400 in savings in the Bay Area. That's one emergency away from not paying your bills. For many people in the Bay Area, COVID-19 is that emergency. And we also know that 50% of the nation's nonprofits are operating with less than 1 month's cash reserve. At this time of increased need, when organizations need more resources, they're also now struggling to make ends meet. They're not only struggling financially, their staff is also facing new levels of trauma, fatigue, stress, and yet they're still showing up on the front lines, stepping forward instead of stepping back, 100% committed to serve in this moment. Today, Tipping Point is announcing a bold goal of raising $30 million in response to COVID-19. We must step forward for our nonprofits, who are the lifeline for over 1 million people in our community that live in poverty, and the many, many more that are one missed paycheck from going over the edge. Tipping Point has never set a public fundraising goal before. It's bold, and honestly, it's ambitious and a little bit scary, but it is necessary. We're pushing ourselves to go bigger because we find ourselves in a rare position, a position where we can help direct resources in the 2 ways that they're needed most. To help the nearly 60 nonprofit organizations in our portfolio maintain stability during this time of exponential need. To also get cash directly in the hands of people who need it most. The restaurant server who lost shifts, the childcare worker whose daycare has closed, the family whose parents, 2 parents who earn their income mostly on tips. Tipping Point will be distributing emergency response grants every 2 weeks, starting the first week of April. We will regularly evaluate our strategy and make updates as needed. What will not change is steadfast focus on serving people who don't have the resources they need. Thank you again for taking the time, and I'll hand it over to Tipping Point's founder and board chair, Daniel Lurie.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you all again for joining us. We've always said that it's going to take our entire community to effectively break the cycle of poverty in our region. And that could not be more true than in this moment. Think about this. As of last week, about 8,000 workers in San Francisco alone lost their jobs due to the coronavirus-related closures, with obviously all of us knowing that these numbers are going to rise dramatically. Nearly 500,000 people in the Bay Area work in Bay Area restaurants, stores, and venues that have been required to shut down or drastically scale back. I've talked to many of you, friends who know people that have lost their jobs. The tech industry is being ravaged as well. And so it's going to be up to us. It's going to be up to this community, just like this community stepped up during fire relief 3 years ago in 2017. We brought corporate community partners together. We raised over $34 million to help our North Bay neighbors. We need to do it again. And yes, as Sam said, it's a crazy, audacious number. It might be a little scary, but as we all know, the easiest thing we can do right now is to give, whether it's $25, whether it's $2,500, whether it's $25,000. We need everybody to step up and step in during this moment. So we'd love for you to consider making a contribution towards our goal. And I want to remind all of you that Tipping Point's board, as it has for 15 years and will continue to do, covers every single part of our overhead, so that when you give, 100% of what you give goes to where it's needed most. I know we're waiting for the governor. We are going to take questions now from all of you while we wait. Kelly Bathgate is our Chief Program Officer. She's going to help us get started. I know we have close to 1,000 people on the phone right now. We already have a lot of questions. Please use that Q&A app on the bottom of your screen to send in questions. Kelly?
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you everyone for joining this call. So I'm pulling up the questions now. And the first one, will funds go to your existing grantees? Are you selecting new grantees to fund during this crisis? Sam, do you want to take that?
Yes, I'll take that one. And so we're starting with our existing grantees because we believe that they're already well positioned to get dollars out in an efficient way and to make sure that the dollars are going to the right place for people who need them the most. That is going to have the greatest impact. As we continue to move forward, we're also evaluating our strategy and trying to understand if we need to expand beyond our current list of grantees to get better penetration into both geography areas that we want to serve more because they've been hit maybe a little bit harder by this virus than usual, as well as particular populations. And so we're going to continue to evaluate the strategy and potentially bring on others to help us in our response effort.
Thank you. How quickly will you distribute the $30 million?
So I'll also take that one. If we're actually hitting our goal, if we do raise $30 million, we want to get $10 million out the door as close to June 30th as we can. We would like to get those dollars out in the next 2 to 3 months. We will try to hold about $20 million for long-term implications. We know that not everything is going to be known today around what our nonprofits need and what the people that they serve need. And so we're going to try to hold some dollars but they will be distributed over the next 18 months, keeping with Tipping Point's philosophy, keeping with one of our values. We don't want to hold on to the dollars. We want to actually get them out there as fast as we can in a responsible way.
Great. I'm going to have a question for Daniel. How has the corporate sector or companies stepped up in this moment?
Like they always do, we have a $1 million commitment from BlackRock. Aaron Levy of Box has donated a 6-figure gift to Tipping Point. We are in talks with the groups that always, and the companies that always come together for us, whether it's Google and Salesforce. We're in talks with how we partner with folks like that. We're just getting started. Last week we had a call where 45 different companies called in to learn about our efforts. I want to also acknowledge that the program staff that is on this phone call from the 45 plus organizations that we fund, we're having a weekly phone call to learn about the needs that are arising at our group. And as we understand what's going on from their end, we also want to understand how corporations are supporting the efforts of our community. Comcast Ventures, Amy Bance is on our board, has made Internet Essentials free for 3 months. They're donating computers. We heard about Revolution Foods having some capacity to serve more meals. So we know that companies want to step up during this time. And so we hope to be able to bridge the corporate sector and the nonprofit sector. And we'll do that with our weekly calls with our nonprofits.
Thank you. We have another question here. What do you think the actual need is? 30 million sounds like a lot, but also sounds like a drop in the bucket. I can take that one, actually. I think that the need is ever evolving, and unlike other crises like the North Bay fires a few years ago that we responded to, a particular challenge here is that are continually monitoring what the needs will be. There are many philanthropic efforts going around, and we are working hard to coordinate and make sure that our efforts are aligned with them. But I think that is absolutely right. It can sound like a drop in the bucket, and at the same time, I think coordinated with many efforts, it will be the right way for philanthropy to step in the immediate while we wait for government resources to add to that as well. Sam, do you have anything to add to that?
I will leave it at that because I don't want to steal the governor's thunder about how he thinks philanthropy and government should work together during this type of crisis in all ways.
Another question: what are your top priorities for these funds?
So the top priorities for the fund is Kelly and the program team have created a really nice criteria. And so the first criteria and first priority is really working with organizations that can get dollars and resources in the hands of individuals as quickly as possible. And so these are organizations like our grantee in Marin, Canal Alliance, who has already started by setting up accounts at local grocery stores so that their clients can go in and charge necessities, and Canal Alliance will pick up the tab. Our first set of grants are probably going to organizations who have been serving college students, especially those who are in foster care. And as the dorms, people have been exited from the dorms, and some have been allowed to come back. But for those who left, they didn't really have any place to go. And so where is it that they're going to live? How they're going to take care of themselves when those basic, when the dorms are closed, the cafeteria is closed, and trying to get dollars out to those types of students as well. And so we're really targeting people first. And then as we go forward, it will be looking at how can we help stabilize our grantees in the nonprofit sector. And so part of that is that, they are getting, they're spending more money right now, and their resources are probably fewer than they've had in a long time, as people divert dollars to the crisis, as people are also worried about their own income. And so we need to make sure that they're propped up as well.
Great, thank you. We have another question. Will any of the funds be translated into cash for people? I'll go ahead and answer that and build off of what Sam just said. Yes, we are prioritizing grants to organizations that are getting resources directly into the hands of people during this crisis. And so that can come in the form of cash and check disbursements, as well as gift cards to grocery stores, to make sure that families and individuals are meeting their essential needs right now. We have another question. Please elaborate more regarding geographic coverage. Sam, do you want to take that?
Yes, I'll take that one. Thanks for giving me a hard one, Kelly. Uh, so we're, as Daniel said, we're continuing to monitor the situation and understand if we're hitting the entire Bay Area, really in the 6 counties that we serve. And so when I think about the geographic area, what has happened over the years is that people have gotten pushed further out from our urban centers. And so in places like Santa Clara County, you have a lot of people who are commuting as far away as Gilroy, back and forth to work. And so making sure that we have coverage in that area for people who need resources, and that they have the availability, to be able to get resources there. Other areas that have typically been underserved, and that is the nonprofit sector is just really beginning to build and respond to the growing population, are areas like the Pittsburgh, Antioch area. And so where you've had many families who are living in poverty or close to poverty move to, and that the nonprofit sector is trying to catch up with the infrastructure and the needs there. And traditionally in places like Bayview, Hunters Point, in San Francisco, and making sure that the resources are getting there in a deep way. We're working really hard with our grantee there as part of our mobility lab initiative that a lot of you've heard about earlier this year, young community developers, to make sure that we're getting the resources to their clients and the residents of the Bayview as needed.
Great, thank you. I'm going to try to.
I just got word that maybe we're about 2 to 5 minutes away from Governor Newsom logging in.
Excellent. We'll fit in a question or two before then. How are you assessing the financial viability of your existing grantee partners who will be dispersing these resources to the community? Are they in a strong, sustainable position to manage the capital disbursement? I will take this one and combine it with another question about the support we're helping our organizations around fundraising in this moment. So yes, part of the reason that we are starting with our portfolio of organizations, because we know they are the strongest lifelines in our community and in strong position to be immediately deploying resources to their community members who need it most. In addition, as Daniel mentioned on the weekly calls we are having, we are sourcing the needs of our organizations to make sure that, core to our model all along, that we are also going above and beyond our dollar support in order to help our organizations get stronger. So we are working to figure out how to help organizations navigate their fundraising challenges when many of our organizations have had to cancel their spring fundraising events. All right, I have another question here. Sam, I'm going to direct this to you. Is this crisis an opportunity for greater systems change?
That's a really great question. And so we do believe that this is an opportunity for greater systems change. And so it's some of the things that we're seeing happening now are things that we've wanted and that we've advocated to happen in our country and our society for a long time. And so as I look around and I think about, how many beds we're actually finding and renting and creating now for our homeless population. And so it's not like those buildings weren't abandoned or weren't available a month and a half ago. And so they were there. And so it wasn't necessarily that we didn't have the skill to go out and rent out places or to do things. On some level, it was that we didn't have the will to do it at that time. And so I think what we're learning is that how connected we are together from a society, and that we're really hoping that some things will go back to normal, but all things will not go back to normal as this. And so we're now getting from the federal government that they are also as part of their stimulus bill, going to expand family leave. That has been something that we've had in California for a very long time. And now we're glad that the nation is kind of following suit, and hopefully that doesn't go away. Greater protections for hourly workers that are reasonable, so that we can move forward. And so again, in a place like California, where we have passed laws in the past where hourly workers can't just be compensated on tips alone, versus in places like my home state of Mississippi, where if you're working at a job that you get tips, they're allowed to pay you $1.75 an hour. And so we're hoping that these types of things don't go back to normal. And we're monitoring the legislation. We're continuing to advocate to public officials to make sure that some of the policy changes that are being made to respond to this crisis, that they can possibly stay in effect as we come out of this crisis.
Great, thank you. And just in time.
Everybody. Hey, Daniel.
Hi, Governor.
I won't speak until I'm asked to speak. I'll defer to all of you. Thank you for having me on.
We're ready for you, Governor Newsom. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate all that you're doing to lead our state through this crisis. We especially appreciate your continued focus on those in our communities who were already having a hard time making ends meet. And just want to thank you again for joining us. And hopefully this is a place that you're feeling at home. These are a lot of the people that you know in an organization that you've been instrumental of and been a part of since it started. So thanks for joining. I will turn it over to you.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks for inviting me on. Even so, in consideration that you're making to make sure everybody's sort of going in most urgent direction that we can meet this moment on. Not dissimilarly, that's precisely what the state is trying to do. As you know, federalism works not just in the construct of 50 different states, but certainly carries down to states as large as the nation state of California, 58 counties, 470, 480 cities in the state, 1,000 plus school boards. There is an independent mindset, and one size does not fit all in terms of how we operationalize the state vision, and it's realized at the local level. And so localism is the frame of reference. Localism is determinative in terms of our capacity to meet this moment. And we recognize that's a big part of what the community is all about. Localism, defined even more granularly, cultural competency, and the recognition that we need to meet people where they are. We accordingly are trying to do that, working through that prism, bottom up, but also recognizing the magnitude of the support that we need from the federal government to meet this moment, which far exceeds the capacity, even the collective capacity of everybody that's participating in this conversation. The stimulus yesterday was significant. We are putting it through the prism of every one of our state programs to understand exactly what it means and what it doesn't. And so we have a deep capacity now of understanding that we didn't have even a few hours ago. And I say that to sort of conclude my remarks. Quite literally in the next day or so, we will know more specifically where our real gaps lie in terms of the most vulnerable Californians and where they lie geographically and otherwise. And that's where we can really use your help to try to fill those voids to the extent the state itself cannot. So not only to work through the effects of the crisis, but the challenge we'll have coming out economically on the other side. So very grateful to all of you for what you're doing and really appreciate this station.
Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you so much, Governor Newsom. And again, we really appreciate everything that you're doing. We're not going to try to hold you any longer. As I said before you got on, I think you're probably juggling a few other things right now. And so we really appreciate your time, your effort, as well as your continued partnership with the philanthropic sector through your, I think, the director of strategic philanthropic investment, Kathleen Kelly Jansen has been really wonderful, not only to this community but across the state as we've tried to mount a philanthropic effort to keep everything afloat until those government interventions come. And so, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, Daniel. I'll give you the last word before I think we're going to sign off.
Governor, just want to say thank you. And we were having a little technical difficulties when you were speaking. I think we got that fixed, but just one question. We got I think we got 1,500 people on this call from some of the top companies, some of the top nonprofits. If you could just maybe end with how we can help the state and all of you up in Sacramento work together. Just if you could end with that, just because we got a lot of corporate leaders, we got a lot of CEOs on the call, but we also have the grassroots nonprofit leaders on as well.
Yeah, I think the most significant thing is we just need to be rowing in the same direction. I just got off a conference call with 50 governors talking to the president just a moment ago, and it just reinforces the unfortunate nature of the lack of coordination. Let me be specific just on the issues of PPE. The state of California just procured 100 million N95 masks as a state. We did that competing against other states, other nations, and likely the United States itself. The lack of coordination just in terms of our purchasing alone really drives, from my perspective, one of the most critical needs, and that is some deeper collaborative spirit of engagement so that we're not competing against each other, increasing costs, and creating more of a bureaucratic morass, and as a consequence of people playing off one another. And so I think, look, that's why you've convened this community, and I'm grateful for that. But it's incumbent upon all of us. We've been announcing one-off, what Musk has done on ventilators, what Tim Cook has done on N95 masks, what Branson's doing on logistics and planes. And we want to continue to make those kind of announcements, Bloom Energy on refurbishing and manufacturing. But to the extent we can centralize those conversations, and maybe at the end of your conversation, I'll close with this, Daniel, end of your conversation, if you can really distill the essence of the commitments people will make, not product commitments, not even dollar commitments, but coordinating commitments, that would be a wonderful place for us to link in. And then I could be precise in what the state is looking for and what we need, and how this community can really help amplify that in real time.
Got it. Well, we'll do our part down here in the Bay Area. We appreciate all that you're doing up there, and keep letting us know how we can be helpful. I think you got places to go.
Oh, good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Sam, you want to close us out?
Sure. Thanks, Daniel. And so thanks again to everyone who joined us today on this quick briefing. Sorry that the first part of the call, the governor was a bit garbled there. We're going to get some better Comcast internet solutions up to the Capitol. But thank you for joining us. And we're also asking all of you to join us in our effort to raise $30 million as quickly as we can to get it out to the people and the organizations that need it most. You're probably going to get an email maybe 10 to 15 minutes after we get off the call directing how you can help us reach our goal and what it is that you can do for our community. So thank you again. And once again, this moment will be defined by not just how our leaders, our elected officials step up, but it will be defined by how we as individuals and how we as a community step up. So thank you. Hopefully enjoy the rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.